Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could teach the gullible to never be so comfortable with lies they eat like comfort food, to disregard the bogus claims and pseudoscientific claims? Can you imagine just how much indeed the world would change? No more political predators playing on the populace with ilkes and plots to shift and kill metropolis. No more villains with the title in the Bible holding phony temper Bibles like the stuff they teach is vital. Imagine it was normal to have to prove a claim you make, and folks really feel ashamed to express some content that was fake. It's not to say we never make mistakes, it's just to say we go out of our way to show the evidence it takes.
Remain skeptical while you travel the road. The reason stay strapped with logic and facts. That's what it is, yo. Keep reality intact to help the truth grow. Question every claim, especially the ones you believe in. Remain skeptical while you travel the road. The reason.
Hello, Paul Sheehan here, the director and producer of Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century. And sitting next to me today is Father Scott Maddox, CPA, Esquire III. And so we got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about Reason Rally in Review. Yep. So we're going to be doing that.
I went. You went?
Well, yeah, I kind of...
Did you go?
Did you go?
And why not?
God was watching. Did you go? So the Flying Spaghetti Monster was watching it.
Oh yeah, I was touched by his noodly appendage at Reason Rally.
Was it good? It
was good for everyone.
It was good for everyone. They had this drink at the Reason Rally party. It was called the Flying Martini Monster. And I thought that was pretty awesome, man. The ingenuity of people to come up with something that cool. Well, we are going to be getting into the Reason Rally review, but before, as always, we have some news and announcement items. I'd like to start us off with our Skeptic of the Week.
Okay.
That's going to be Hemant Mehta, the Friendly Atheist. The reason I picked him was because he actually did a rational, reasonable response to the turnout and the deficiencies of Reason Rally. He really tried to look at it from an analytical standpoint. He didn't jump on it like some other people and just get nasty about it. And our community is one that always needs reasonable, rational, skeptical kind of reflection on where we are, where we've come from, and how we're going. So Hemant Mehta, I salute you, sir, for doing a great job.
Yeah, constructive criticism always welcome, but you don't want to be like so negative that you alienate people from, and cause a chilling effect, and they don't want to talk about or be involved in the movement anymore. That's not helpful.
Yeah, you want to alienate people. We got some news items.
You want to do good news or bad news, or
start with the bad news? We all know there's been bad news today.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, today is Sunday, June 12th, 2016, and something really horrible happened late last night, early this morning. That unfortunately we are all dealing with this morning. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, Scott?
Yeah, so in Orlando, Florida, at what is it? A dance club.
Gay dance club.
Gay dance club. Was it Pure? Or?
I don't know the name of it.
There was a shooting attack. 50 people so far have been identified.
There's 50 dead
and 53 or so are wounded in the hospital. If you can donate blood and you're in the area, please do. They've identified the attacker. It was his name was Omar Mateen. Went in with an assault rifle, like AR-15 style, and a handgun. May have had some kind of explosive device on him. They're not sure. It's just kind of like a horrible, horrible situation. They're already saying this is the absolute worst, shooting massacre in American history. Which
to me is really beside the point, whether it's the worst, the second worst, the third worst. What I think is really important is the motivations. First of all, the show doesn't really typically take up an issue on the gun control matter, but we had the Happy Land fire in 1990 where 93 people were burned to death by somebody who did something similar. So I don't even want to get tied up on how he did it. What I care about is why he did it. And there is people were suspecting initially that this was religiously motivated. Everybody was a little cautious at first, rightfully so. But as the facts are slowly coming out, I understand that you have some information that you just read that are indicating that he may have been inspired by ISIS, or at least gave some type of credit to them. Is that correct?
I just read this right before the show started that he had apparently called 911, identified himself to police, and pledged his allegiance to ISIS. I don't know how substantiated this was, but I mean, it was in Huffington Post article. So I mean. Yeah. Hopefully that's substantiated.
And I think one thing that's very clear at this point is that he absolutely did this because people were gay.
Yeah.
And
we just started Ramadan, which is a Muslim holy month, with fasting and prayer and stuff like that. On Sunday at sundown, I believe. This June is also Pride Month. I'm not sure if it was Pride Week or Pride Weekend in Orlando, but I mean it was in DC. Yeah. It probably is in other cities, and I know they have like gay days at Disney World in Orlando also, and so I mean like there's events going on in very recent history.
And it's not to say that someone could be attacking homosexuals on a purely secular level, but these types of gay attacks are almost always religious in nature.
Yeah, and the Governor Rick Scott, I believe, he's called it terrorism. Most people are calling it terrorism simply because the number of casualties and injuries involved, and the fact that he seems to be a Muslim. It's against the community. Clearly a gay dance club. Yeah. During Pride Month and Ramadan, the things seem to point towards it being terrorism. Whether it's linked or not to ISIS is unclear yet. But
if in fact his pledge is real, that you quoted, then at least he believes he was acting in the name of ISIS. So,
and it should be noted that various members of the Muslim community in like Orlando and other places have come out and said, this is.
They always condemn it.
Yeah, they're condemning it.
People always condemn these things, but then they don't ever deal with the fact that their text promote.
But I mean, there's always fear that it's kind of like aftershocks, where like this happens to one community and then other people might retaliate, or whether they support gay people or not, they might just look at it as like, oh, they shot up Americans and it gives them license to attack Muslims or something.
Yeah, and
that had nothing to do with it.
Like Brian Fisher, who runs a Christian radio show called the Conservative American Family Association, or he's from affiliated with them, says he tweeted this morning that they don't want homosexuals dead; they just want them cured. So even here you have religious people coming together and pushing their bigotry on top of bigotry. It's like,
you could say it's too soon, but I mean,
yeah, but he thinks he's doing a good thing, and it's his religion who's it's his religious ideology that it has him promoting an intolerant standpoint against a community that's just suffered 100 people shot. Now I want to move on.
That's mild. I mean, there's worse things that people are saying out there on the internet and stuff, and it's despicable.
All right, so we literally have about 4 minutes before we go to break, and I did want to talk about, and we will be going over this in the show, but this is interesting because we had Reason Rally a week ago, but just 2 days ago, starting 2 days ago, yesterday and the day before, we had the Faith and Freedom Rally Coalition in D.C. We're going to get into a little bit of a discussion on that and how small their numbers were. So we'll be discussing that during the show, but that did take place in the District of Columbia, and it was held at the Omnishore Hotel, and I actually got to attend and hear some of those people talking. You also had a discussion in contrast. We got this guy who's Muslim. He seems to have done this in ISIS's name, the shooting at this gay club. But something else also happened in the last 24 hours that seems to have gotten almost no coverage regarding an American soldier. That's almost a flip, kind of, not with the violence on the level, but there are threats of it. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So in North Carolina, maybe Fayetteville, I'm not sure, but that's where the guy is from. An Army Reserve Major, Russell Langford, was arrested in connection with basically tossing or leaving 2 packets of bacon, which, you know, most people will recognize as a non-halal pork product.
And delicious.
Yeah, I love bacon. I'll have to disclose, but you know, he left it at a mosque. That's disrespectful, you know, to private property, number one. But to make matters way worse, he threatened people, members of this mosque, with a gun. You know, this is first week of Ramadan, and I'm sure he knew this. He probably heard about it on the news and was like, "Ooh, this is an opportunity for me to go like scare some people." Who knows what he was going to do, but he had a gun. He threatened to shoot them and bury them behind the mosque, and he threatened to run them down with his car. That's horrible. And, you know, we've got this election season going, and, you know, I don't want to bash any particular candidates, but, you know, there's a Washington Post article.
To talk about it? I have no clue.
Yeah, but where it's talking about like the alarming rise in fascist rhetoric, you know, not just in America, but, you know, in Europe. I heard on the news also that Berlusconi was distributing free copies of Mein Kampf, Hitler's bestseller, with memberships of his newspaper, which I think he's like a newspaper magnate in Italy.
Because that country obviously didn't learn its lesson from World War II.
Like, what is happening, world?
I don't know. But this is interesting because, you know, this is a case of intolerances feeding intolerance. And it's like, yes, the Muslim shooting up the club was much worse than the bacon throwing, gun wielding, you know, driving lunatic army soldier. But this is where I actually do kind of part company with Sam Harris a bit, you know, about, you know, the U.S. going over and fighting Muslim extremists, because we'll never be seen by those people as secular. They're always going to see this as Christians attacking them. They're going to see it as U.S. imperialism attacking them.
Mm-hmm. Neo-Crusaderism.
Neo-Crusaderism, regardless of what our intentions are. And this is one of those things that I think we should do a deeper discussion on in another show. But I think just like how we had Reason Rally, and then we had the Faith and Freedom Rally, we have the Muslim shooter, we have this lunatic army major.
Ramadan.
Yeah, everybody's answer.
We'll call it an attack, you know, whether anyone was harmed or not. But
we see this going on with, you know, and we'll get into this in the show. We see this with the Thunderfoot anti-feminists. Then we have the ultra, you know, third wave feminists. Everybody's answer for everything these days seems to be to obliterate and attack ruthlessly the other side.
And ultimately, people should be able to congregate with like-minded people and not be afraid of, you know, being harmed in any way. You know, Reason Rally, you know.
Well, we'll get back to this. We're at our break time, but we're going to get into the meats and potatoes of this when we come back, and hold that thought.
This is Hemant Mehta of FriendlyAtheist.com, and I invite you to join me at the Reason Rally in Washington, D.C. at the Lincoln Memorial on June 4th, 2016, celebrating the fact that we understand what most of America doesn't, that no God is watching over us, and it's up to us to make the world a better place. Check out reasonrally.org to see a list of all the events taking place that weekend. It's historic, it's free, and it's gonna be amazing.
Good. Homemade noodles. Marty, stop it. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. It reminds me, I've been thinking maybe we should try a new form of birth control. I heard about this one. It's called the IUD, intrauterine device. Or we could try the patch on your arm. Actually, I think that one goes on your butt.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
What do you think, though? Arm or the butt?
There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
This is Richard Dawkins. Doing commercials is unfamiliar territory for me, but I'm inviting you to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, on Fairfax Public Access every Sunday. Each week, the hosts tackle wishful thinking, religion, pseudoscience, and the harm they cause, with a combination of facts, humor, and community involvement. They challenge believers to defend their faith and give you, the skeptic, a voice. With live call-ins for viewers and streaming on the World Wide Web, there's never a dull moment. Don't wait. Look at them now on Facebook and YouTube, and remember to watch Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century, or there'll be hell to pay.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
I'm Paul Sheehan, executive producer of Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century, and I'm inviting our viewers to join us in Washington, D.C. on June 4th at the Lincoln Memorial for Reason Rally 2016. If you care about public access television, freedom of speech, and you feel that atheists and skeptical thinking people should have a voice, then you will definitely want to be at Reason Rally. The day after, on June 5th, Road to Reason will be holding a workshop to discuss how to promote atheism and skepticism through public access television and through the internet. Make sure to visit our Facebook page for updates as to when and exactly where that will be held. See you at Reason Rally. And I did see you at Reason Rally.
Yep.
So I was there. I made it happen.
Reason Rally. This is from a 2012 picture, actually, but...
Yeah, because they couldn't actually make a picture of 2016 before the actual rally happened.
Yeah.
That would have been weird. And they had to have a time machine or something like that. And I will grant you, like, Lawrence Krauss was there and he's like super smart, but I don't think he could have made a time machine to go and get a picture and then come back and put it in the magazine. So.
Couldn't find the time.
Couldn't find the time. You're a funny guy. He's so funny. All right. So, yeah, let's get into Reason Rally and review.
I liked it. I liked the Reason Rally.
Good job, Reason Rally.
Okay, we're done.
All right, thank you. Nice. You ready to go? Let's go grab some beers, man. The show's over.
Yep.
Okay. So,
we're gonna give some constructive criticism.
Yep.
These are some good things. These are some not so good things. Or room for improvement. Some opportunities.
And I think we're going to give some contrast between what it is that we did and what the Christian right just did.
Yeah, I did everything right.
Yeah, we do it anyway.
Yeah, Road to Reason is not to blame.
Yeah, we got God on our side. We're righteous.
Yeah,
so.
we've been pushing this for at least 6 months.
Exactly. Well, this is a really good discussion. What went right and what went wrong, and why are we actually having this discussion? One of the reasons I personally wanted to have this discussion is because of the Thunderfoot response. Mm-hmm. There's a side of me that said, "Don't feed the troll." On the other side, he had some legitimate concerns that I think ultimately he turned into ridiculous arguments. There are things that he blew completely out of perspective. I think there's some things that should be explained. Just for the viewers that don't know, I was on the AV board for Reason Rally. I actually worked for them. Mm-hmm. And Thunderfoot, if you're watching this video, and I know you probably got bigger and better things to do, one of the complaints you had was that no one invited YouTubers to speak. And I am in agreement. I would have liked to have seen an Aaron Ra, him at Meta, even a Thunderfoot. I like the idea of internet personalities because that is the way people, especially young people, view things today is off the internet. And I think that when people Google atheism and they do research on it, they very quickly trip across like an amazing atheist or one of these people out there.
They'll find a YouTube video because that's what the current young folk culture likes to consume.
Yeah, but
we need to get a Snapchat.
Yes, we do. But I don't want anyone to think that Thunderfoot was excluded from this process. Now, I will admit, I don't have. I understand Phil Mason is Thunderfoot, and I didn't look under Phil Mason in retrospect. Maybe I should have, but I did a lot of research trying to figure out. I find an email address for him. But I did reach out through Google Plus. I had somebody reach out through Facebook. I posted an email through his YouTube account, put comments, asking him to contact. Because one of the things that very early on, when I talked to the executive director, Liz Liddell, I said, I really don't want to exclude anybody from this, for having unpopular points of view. And I met no resistance on this. Nobody said, oh, well, you can't invite this person because they have this perspective or whatever. Phil, you were invited to at least reach out back to us. And you were invited, go check these, YouTube and Google Plus whatevers, because I absolutely did reach out to you. You seem to have a lot of channels, a lot of ways to reach you, and perhaps these were not the best ways to get a hold of you, but I did the best I could. But please don't act like you were excluded from Reason Rally or collaborating as an atheist as a member of our community, because you most certainly were not. So having said that,
I came across at least one Thunderfoot video, criticizing the Reason Rally, or talking about it. Let's just say that.
Okay.
But I wasn't specifically looking for Thunderfoot. I was just looking for what people were saying in video and in news articles about the Reason Rally, to see what kind of coverage it was getting, see if there was any interesting points being made, theories about the level of turnout of people. And it's not like nobody showed up. It wasn't like a handful of people. Thousands showed up, I think.
Yeah.
We don't have an official number.
We don't have an official number,
because Park Service don't do that.
I also note,
I've heard 2,000 to 8,000, which is
he's saying
less than the unofficial number that the 2012 one had, which was unofficially 20 to 30,000. But
he was saying, based off a couple pictures, that it was 2,000.
It's hard to tell because you can't even see the tents that people are going to, or
exactly. And I want to say that I work in DC as a professional filmmaker. Mm-hmm. I work in live stage events. I worked at the Gaylord. I've worked at the Marriott Marquis. I work at any of these venues. I have worked at, and I can get a pretty good sense. And he didn't see the people clustered off to the sides where the trees were shading. There was another section.
Yeah, this is a hot day. I got sunburned.
Yeah, to the left where they had a massive tent where they all, it's not even in that section. It's all divided by trees.
Yeah, you move where the shade moves.
And people came and go. As you pointed out, it was a hot day. Not everybody that was in that picture was there all day. People did come and go.
They had a VIP section right in front of the stage. I believe it was $500 a seat. A little too pricey for my taste.
Me too.
But the buffer zone between those expensive chairs and falling into the reflecting pond is very small, and the security would have you keep walking. The only time they opened up everything was once Wu-Tang took the stage, and
right, yeah. Well, you couldn't keep people out; they swamped the stage. I'm operating a camera, I'm filming Wu-Tang up on there, and I'm looking behind me what the hell's going on? Who are these people coming up behind me? It was just insane.
Yeah, and it's not a normal rally too. It's this is an all-day event. It was 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Yeah. You're in it for the long haul, so you better get comfy. You better find a good spot in the shade under the trees. And they have the stage and they have the big video screen on it, and the audio and the video, it was great. If you went, you would have been able to hear everything and see everything.
Yeah, they had failed a couple times.
Well, they had another screen off to the side.
That's right, where the big
and that was good. It was very accessible. Yeah, and you didn't have to feel uncomfortable.
So with my experience in DC, I honestly would say that the numbers of people who turned out for this event probably tapped out at around 10,000 throughout the day. People coming and going. I'd say
you've got all the visitors from the Lincoln Memorial.
Right. Well, I'm saying people who brought lawn chairs and were holding signs and came to the event. I think that in reality, the numbers that I saw probably were more reflective of 5,000.
That's a lot of people,
at one time. It is a lot of people.
There's not a whole lot of rallies that get lots and lots of people. You know, there was the Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert rally, the rally to restore sanity.
Which they spent $50 million advertising for a year before.
and they're advertising it on Comedy Central. It's a free event with hugely popular entertainers.
And isn't narrow to a demographic that are like atheists and skeptics.
Yeah, it's more
mainstream.
I mean, it's supposed to be, it was kind of like a pseudo-political rally, because I mean, like, they're talking about, like, I guess, rhetoric reform and discourse reform, but it's kind of like, they're not really taking a position on hard issues like we were at the Reason Rally, where we're like, secular values in government. We want representation in Congress. 535 members, none of them are out atheists, as far as we know. We want that.
And I want to say it was a success, and I'll tell you why it was a success. Okay, Thunderfoot. So if you think that, if we went with your number of 2,000, okay, Ray Comfort showed up with less than, I'd say, 50 people. And he spent a lot of money and a lot of time organizing his counter rally. The Faith and Freedom rally that just took place yesterday, I would say maxed out probably around 500. The best that the Christian ultra-right in this country can do can't even match our numbers. That is impressive. We're a minority, and we do better at getting bodies to a atheist skeptic rally than the extreme Christian right can in this country. That's an accomplishment, sir. That is not something to be condemned or easily dismissed.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just because people aren't showing up to a rally doesn't mean that they're not involved or, like, tweeting about it, commenting about it, excited about the rally for the people who are going, or for the idea of it happening. They're still part of the movement. We're millions of people strong. We don't have to be in one physical place at the same time. The movement exists independent of that.
I have one serious complaint, and this is like one that has nothing to do with Reason Rally. It has to do with Ray Comfort. You owe me a friggin' sandwich. I want my Subway sandwich, you punk. Okay, the fact of the matter is, would Jesus renege? Would Jesus promise a sandwich and not deliver? You did, you jerk. I want my sandwich. And you are going to cough it up before this is over.
Do you know whether he promised 6 inches or 12?
I doubt Ray could handle 12 inches.
You know who I met? Like, when I was walking from the Smithsonian Metro to the rally, I ran into Matt Slick. I heard someone say the name Matt, and like just something clicked in my head, and I was like, "Wait, are you Matt Slick?" And he's like, "Yeah. How do you know me?"
So I've watch people make fun of you on the internet?
I've heard like Matt Dillahunty say like, "Oh, I'm never debating that guy ever again."
Well, I saw Ray Comfort being escorted away by the police, and he was not happy. He was like really agitated.
Yeah, I got the pleasure of getting to turn down Matt Slick for an interview on the spot.
I got to debate a couple Christians. I have to say, I was not impressed. They sent the wife down just to test the waters, and I'm like, oh, what brave men you are. And then, like, they said, the husband and his friend came down once they saw I was willing to engage. And I honestly have to say, I felt really good. I actually sent them away, like, questioning their beliefs, and they showed up for the sole purpose of just, like, provoking. Wow. And they literally were, like, scratching their heads, like, going, I don't mean to be disrespectful. The look on their face was like they just got hit by a truck. They didn't know what to do with it.
And there was a lot of, I'm sure they're Ray Comfort's people wearing atheistmovie.com shirts, and I guess it's kind of like a bait and switch, because you're like, is this a movie about atheists or by atheists? And I confirmed it with one of the people that it is a Ray Comfort produced film about atheists, from a pro-Christianity stance, of course. I don't think they have like a timer counting down like the days and hours and minutes to when this film will be released, but expect the blogosphere to be commenting about how ridiculous it is and how sneakily selective the video editing is to make atheists look maximally silly and dumb. Because he's done it before.
Yeah.
He's just making it in a longer format version now.
It's like I love God is Not Dead 2, because as if they couldn't get that message right the first time, and God is Dead 1. You know,
It's
like
an enjoyable film.
Yeah.
Also, there was they showed a trailer for it. It's called Batman and Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this. It looks like an interesting film, like a documentary where they're exploring the question of, like, you know, comic book fans know that you go into a comic book store and you buy something to read, and it's fiction. No, you don't have to be told that it's fiction. You just know it. But, like, what if it's like a hypothetical of, like, what if people didn't know that, and like a whole religion like cropped up around Batman, and they have like hymns like na 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 Batman kind of thing.
Yeah, you can almost make a religion out of it.
Yeah. Killer Priest is in it, a couple other people. Killer Priest is in Wu-Tang Clan. Maybe that's why Wu-Tang Clan was playing there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was like Wu-Tang. Like, so you're doing the whole day of like speakers, a couple performances. You know, you're eating your vegetables, being a good kid, and then at the end you get your dessert at 6 or 7 p.m. after you're like burnt and sweaty and tired. And Wu-Tang is like, you know, the last hurrah. But then, like, you know, how is this Reason Rally relevant exactly? I don't know. And, you know, I don't know a whole lot about Wu-Tang, but don't they have like misogynistic lyrics? They might have even had misogynistic lyrics at their show, and I mean, to me, that's kind of like a divergence from the secular values and inclusive equality message that the whole rest of the rally was trying to promote.
That's not possible, because Thunderfoot made it very clear that there was going to be no dissent from this really rigid gay, lesbian, transgender, feminist objective that they had. So
I haven't heard anyone complain about Wu-Tang. So
well, I mean,
I want to be the first to have that criticism.
Okay, well here's my appreciation.
I enjoyed their show though.
Yeah,
Guilty pleasure, maybe.
My appreciation is that if they have misogynistic lyrics, all the better. Because the atheist community is diverse. I do not want to start shutting people out because they are a white male cis or gay, lesbian, transgender, or they have an opinion that I don't agree with. And I actually think, and this is one of my constructive feedbacks, is I wish there was less of the rah-rah atheism stuff and more mainstream recognizable names, and getting less atheist people to come so that they could see that atheists weren't out holding a baby eating barbecue on the National Mall. That, oh, these people do like Wu-Tang Clan, these people do like this comedian, these people do like this music. These are normal people, they're just like us.
Yeah.
And
not all atheists eat babies. Some are vegetarians and vegans.
Yes, this is true. You know, I get my baby eating recipes from the Bible. They're actually like actual parts of the Bible that talk about how you can eat your children during famine and stuff. So, you know, it's like if you're going to attack atheists for eating babies, I would say look no further than your own holy book. Yeah. But I actually think this brings up an interesting question. That one of the criticisms that and he was not the only one, Thunderfoot, to have, which was about the code of conduct. Now, I find it interesting, and you brought up a really good point before the show, is it sounds like Thunderfoot went out of his way to find some things to complain about.
Yeah, there wasn't actually any problem that had to be addressed or was poorly addressed by this code of conduct. It was just like criticism of the code of conduct, you know. As far as we know, there was no like big bad problem that came up that required, everyone was on their good behavior as far as I know, except maybe like a few Christian protesters who got a little too close with their megaphones. And the police and security were really good about like ushering them away.
And Liz was, and you know, it's funny because the rally was accused of being intolerant. Liz actually was approached by the park police, and she even was saying, well, you know, if they're not going to be disruptive, if they're going to be like quietly standing over there with their signs,
that's cool.
You know,
right?
that's cool. Of course, you know, the reality is that even if their side behaved, ours was going to go up and provoke them. But the thing I want to say about the code of conduct, and this is where I don't depart from where Phil had some objectives. All right, to me, a code of conduct, or objections, not objectives, excuse me. A code of conduct really should be a code of conduct, and it did come off as like preaching an ideology or a tolerance thing.
It was a little too specific.
A little too specific. And I hate to say it, you're dealing with the diverse community like this. You're dealing ultimately with children. You gave special treatment to that group and not to this group, and you left us out. And you get.
But I wonder. I mean, we weren't present for the writing of these rules. We don't know exactly what the objective was. Maybe there is a good point to having it being so specific.
Yeah, I don't agree. I actually think that our community is extremely tolerant of gay, lesbian, transgender issues.
For the most part.
I think more so than any other community in the United States.
But also,
Let me finish my thought. The point is, they could have just said, any harassment will not be tolerated. Yeah. And that is the corporate response that could have nipped all of that in the butt.
Right.
And it also lets Reason Rally off the hook for not having to pick sides on something, and doesn't tie their hand when they do execute a dismissal of someone from the rally that wasn't listed by name in the rally. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, you don't want to tie your hands and say, well, we're going to treat this group this way and that group that way. Now, what Thunderfoot did is he tried to make it sound like that this was a social justice proclamation. And I think what I would say is, you're right. It was a non-issue, but they left themselves open because of the wording of it.
Maybe they wanted to give them something to talk about, like, look at the Civil Rights Act, where it does not cover LGBT people. It doesn't cover atheists exactly.
Right, but this is where...
And they want to be so specific to show hey, we're making a statement that, really, we're going to be for equality for everyone and protect everyone, but we're going to specifically name these people and show that, you guys aren't specifically naming people, but we will, and we're not going to specifically name you as a protected class, even though you will be protected.
Yeah, but it makes no sense inside of a community where, organizers of this event were gay, lesbian, transgender,
right,
to then carve out that they should be given some type of special protection. It makes it sound like there is a problem in the community and they therefore have to be protected in the community.
There's problems in every community.
Right. And I'm just saying, they did have, one of their objectives was to further gay, lesbian, transgender rights. I just think that the code of conduct for me, and understanding how code of conducts work, was something that I felt personally, I'm not in complete disagreement with him on, but I think it's non enough of an issue that I don't really want to kind of harp on it much more. But I will say that I didn't see anybody being excluded.
Right.
I didn't see anybody. I think Reason Rally went to great lengths to make sure everyone was included, despite the language that was in there. And I think Thunderfoot's reactions to these things went from having a critique to just outright vitriolic attacks. And it got to a point by the end of this, he's like, oh, look at how stupid Reason Rally was. They lost their feed and it was out of sync. You see what a bunch of imbeciles they are? Oh, look.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
And it's and if people knew, and I don't think a lot of people understand, is that what Liz Liddell inherited was a mess through no fault of her own. I think everyone. I don't think everyone knows, and I don't know what happened with Sarah Moorhead, but she left Reason Rally and things fell apart. In very short order, Liz, with a very extremely limited budget, with having to reassemble a team, figuring out who was who and what roles they were going to play, I think did a phenomenal job. I think Dave Silverman, Dave Tamayo, all these people that were behind Reason Rally, with what they had, they beat the pants off of Freedom and Faith Rally. They beat the pants off of Ray Comfort.
Beat the pants off of Glenn Beck.
Maybe. I think that's a fair assessment.
I don't know.
I think that's a fair assessment. And I also think that they didn't just hold a rally. You got to look at this. They didn't just call, ladies and gentlemen, for people to show up one day on the National Mall. There was an advocacy day. There was a mini con. There was
exhausting multi-day, thing going on.
I personally was on burnout. I have to tell a joke. It's a true story. I was having dinner with Dave Silverman the last night, and so I'm sitting at the table. I'm with Rick Wingrove, who's the president, local president or chapter of American Atheist, Beltway Atheist. So I look over at Dave Silverman and I say, "So Dave, when's Reason Rally 3 going to happen?" And this, I joke you not, this is what he does. His eyes roll back. Starts doing this, and it's like, all right, I'm sorry. And I think it was real. I don't think that he was like playing for effect. I think he just like it was like that. He couldn't handle it. It was like this was all coming at him, and he was just like, "You didn't know? No, I can't handle that right now."
Was there any like one organization that like sort of took the reins of this? Like Dave Silverman, he's president of American Atheist. There was a CFI or CFIDC.
I don't think so. I think Reason Rally
Secular Coalition,
and that's the problem.
Just Reason Rally was like
Reason Rally,
a coalition of many organizations.
Exactly. And they're having to deal with all the differences of these organizations.
Yeah, differences of opinions.
Exactly.
American Humanist Association, all the different ideas that they want to emphasize over others. One of the things I thought was really good with this Reason Rally contrasted with last Reason Rally in 2012 was so I think there was a video at the last one of Representative Pete Stark, and he was on his way out. He had lost his primary election, I believe. He was the first open atheist in Congress, but he's on his way out. But this time, and these aren't atheists, but we had two sitting House representatives, Representative Bobby Scott from Virginia and Representative Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii. And both of them were like speaking about the importance of secular values, humanistic values. They had good stories and anecdotes. Bobby Scott touched on the fact that right now we have federal funding of faith-based initiatives, yet religious organizations are exempted from the Civil Rights Act in that they can discriminate on hiring, even when they're receiving federal funding for these faith-based initiatives that were implemented during the George W. Bush administration.
Yeah.
It's not,
And they're allowed to collect money from churches that don't have to pay taxes to begin with.
They're not, people don't realize a lot of the time that religious organizations are not required to be audited. They don't have to, I don't think they have to file a 990 form, which has stuff like, significant, like board of directors compensation and stuff like that, and all this like good information that you would want to know if you're somebody who's donating to an organization, or where funding sources are coming from, or what their actual stated objectives and mission are. They're discriminating against people for tons of reasons. If they're a different religion, if they're LGBTQ. Ken Ham, for example, he's I don't know if he's getting federal funding, but he's getting state tax incentives, and he is discriminating not just against atheists or gay people, but he's discriminating against Christians who believe in anything other than a young Earth creationistic worldview.
Yeah.
And he's getting tax breaks, huge, like in the terms of like almost $20 million in tax breaks.
Well, I saw a lot of advocacy for that at the Faith and Freedom Coalition, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
Did he have a presence there, Ken Ham?
No.
Or Ark Encounter?
No, actually he didn't, but it's actually that type of crowd.
And I think that's opening in December this year, or sometime this year, or early next year.
But I did want to talk a little bit, I want to finish up my thoughts on Thunderfoot. Because I watched him at Reason Rally 1, and I watched him like fawning over Aaron Ra. I've actually watched Thunderfoot change over time. I honestly, and this is just my assessment, I completely acknowledge there's people that don't agree with me, is that he made some criticism of feminism, which I don't think was completely unfounded. And as a result of that, and I say feminism, I mean third wave. I'm not against women's suffrage. I'm not against women's equal, pay or anything of that nature. But I think that some of this third wave stuff.
This is a little over my head because I'm like, hey, whatever women want, they can have. Well, just don't kill me.
Well, I don't agree. But
they deserve it.
Okay, fine.
51%.
I think when you have, well, that's not equality. But that's a separate point. The point is that he was attacked viciously. They went after his job. They went after his livelihood.
That's not cool.
He was, basically called a neo-Nazi, a rape apologist, all these other things. And calling somebody one thing is one thing. Going after them and trying to ruin their life using those labels on them is another.
He's got some minions too, though, right?
Well, yeah, but
he
does not. The difference is he doesn't call his minions out to do these things to others. And whether his minions do it or not is another matter. But my point is that he got jaded along the way. He got to a point where he has become a social justice warrior against social justice warriors. He has become
what he hates.
What he hates, and he needs to do some serious reflection on that, because every video that he's doing that isn't science now, and he does some amazing science videos. But the ones that he's doing are all anti-feminism. It's all anti-feminism. And even some of his videos, I'm sorry, I watch his videos on Anita Sarkeesian, and he has facts. He actually shows the video clips where she says the things that he's accused her of and whatnot. But it's seriously, dude, does every one of your videos need to be about that? Because this is where I want to get in. I want to read something to you that was an author that was at Faith and Freedom Coalition, and when I get done reading this, I want to kind of ask Thunderfoot and the other people watching this video, this Nita Sarkeesian, people attacking him attacking them. Listen to what this guy wrote. He wrote a book called Hating Jesus, The American Left's War on Christianity. This is on his Amazon page, and this is a little forward from him. Just a few short decades ago, a church-going man who publicly supported the right to life, backed laws protecting marriage, and spoke freely of Christ's love for fallen man would have universally been recognized as fine and upstanding citizen. He would have been welcome anywhere, including the highest levels of power. But things have changed. In today's America, the progressive left actively endeavors to destroy such a man. Modern American leftists start by vilifying Christians. They then begin scheming, quite often to success, to get Christians terminated from employment and forever marked with a scarlet C to inhibit any future prospects for employment. Next, they systematically attack their family and work to tear it apart, at once sending a warning shot over the bow of other Christians and pushing them to the fringes of society. The ultimate goal: conform to their pagan demands or face incarceration. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your enemy. Thunderfoot, that's your enemy. Feminists, that's your enemy. Going after someone because they called you hun or sweetie, or going after someone because they pointed out Anita Sarkeesian said something that was not true. We really want to be fighting inside our community when we got guys like that holding counter rallies to Reason Rally, pushing that is a public agenda. I mean, do we see any similarities here? I don't know. But the thing I would remind people of is that we kick their butt with numbers. Let's not demean it.
And we're kicking their butt in numbers, and we're one of the fastest growing groups in the world. In America, you read these Pew Research studies. Christianity is shrinking in America. Attendance numbers is shrinking.
And it has nothing to do with us throwing them into prison and branding scarlet C's on their foreheads.
Yeah, we're doing it the fair and fancy-free way.
Yeah, but these guys were up there on the stage. They had the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, was up there, and he is saying that the Supreme Court of Texas is going to unilaterally decide that police vehicles can have "In God We Trust," on them, and that so obviously looks like it's ultimately going to go to the Supreme Court.
Is this the same district that had, or a police district that had the Spanish cross or some kind of cross on the vehicles?
I don't know, and I don't.
Those got removed.
I don't know, but the guy we trust thing is his argument
it's kind
is
of
that
a
it's
gray
more,
area.
Well, it's more patriotic than anything, and then the other thing is, the Supreme Court has already ruled that during city council meetings that you can have a diversity of religious beliefs. Well, then, if these cars are going to have "In God We Trust," then we need to have secularism for America stamped on them as well. Yeah. Buddha, Satanist logos, and everything else.
Slippery slope.
Right, slippery slope.
Too many viewpoints on that.
So these people showed up, and it was interesting because even Trump was getting a hard time from the extreme Christian right at this rally. He was there on Saturday. They did remove some protesters.
Do they have any concerned women for America there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Now, which is interesting, though, because, we were talking, Scott, before the show about some of the other observations I made, and one of the things that I saw was when they weren't pushing religion, they were pushing policy. I actually was really impressed by their need. They felt the need to reform our criminal justice system.
Yeah,
and
that's something I can agree on.
Yeah, and they were actually talking about getting rid of prison for nonviolent offenders.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the harm it causes to families. So I'm like, oh, wow, man.
Especially nonviolent drug offenses where there are so many African American people and males, a lot of them are locked up for long periods of time for nonviolent drug convictions, and there's so many that it has the appearance of is this a racist policy, or we should look at this and see is there a better way to deal with this, or is it a matter of decriminalizing some of these drugs or reducing the penalty?
Yeah. I think these people were open to those discussions, but then religion goes and gets in the way and cocks it all up, because they weren't overwhelming this discussion with religious talk. There was a few references to what do they call it, faith initiatives. But one thing would be clear is that if I had told these people I was an atheist, we probably would not have had a useful discussion on prison reform.
They get caught up
because they get caught up on it, and it's that's the poison to religion, of religion for me.
What about death penalty? Do they say anything about death penalty reform or getting rid of it?
They had no discussion on that.
In Utah, which is conservative state, highly Mormon, I think they brought back the firing squad as their preferred death penalty.
Quite frankly, I hope never to do anything or be accused of anything that could get me the death penalty, but if I had to face one, that would be it. I don't think I would want to be crisped from the inside out. I don't think I would want to sleepily go away. I don't know. Maybe it's just me and my male hormones. The idea of going out like a hero, getting shot or something.
The reason I don't like it, so prison reform is one thing. I heard them talking about this on Democracy Now! The other day, where you have innocent people in prison. So if you have innocent people, you don't want to treat them like crap. You have some level of basic comfort and rights in prison. And same thing with the death penalty and death row. You have innocent people on death row. You have innocent people who have clearly been killed, and they found out after the fact. So you can't take that back. So maybe we shouldn't have such absolutist.
There's an irony too that the death penalty is almost, not exclusively, but almost exclusively supported by the religious right.
It doesn't work. It's clearly a revenge thing that's influenced by religious culture, because revenge through death is like a theme in the Bible.
People who claim that they're acting in God's name are now trying to act like gods, deciding who lives and dies. It's kind of an absurdity. But, it was interesting, though. We had a guest on the show I'm inviting back on our show by the name of Bama Brinkman, who's like a rapper.
He rapped on Thursday or Friday night.
Oh, my God, he was good. He was so good. And
he's on TED Talk as well.
He does a great job of talking about science. And for instance, he talked about violence in anywhere in the world.
Like Animal Kingdom or Human
Anywhere,
Kingdom?
human violence. Anywhere, you know, it's like ages like 14 to 30, and you see these graphs, and they peak and they start to drop, because you know, like where you start seeing it drop is when guys get married because they stop competing for a mate. And he's like, and this is all scientifically backed up. And he shows, like, he goes, now women, you know, they show violence, there's this tiny little bump, and he's like, that's like age 16 to 20, and that's the you call me a bitch, I call you a bitch, and you know, that kind of thing, right? You know, and he says, but it isn't really an issue, and it's consistent across all cultures. And he goes, but you know where their same bump is on pregnancy, and it's like, you know, and it drops off right about marriage. He says,
like having children is a peacemaking thing.
Well, or just that it's like we are slaves to our biology in ways that we don't even consider.
Yeah.
And
like Steven Pinker's book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, said that women who came out to the wild, wild west, you know, they brought with them Christianity and themselves to marry all these like losers who were shooting up everybody. So they,
I don't know about that, but
they calmed down the wild, wild.
Yeah, well, they say supposedly, but I just thought it was really interesting because those are the type of voices that somebody who wants to attack Reason Rally say that was a failure. Those are the type of voices that they gave credence to, and the networking that went on was tremendous. I do want to take we only got about 2 minutes left, but I do want to note one person that I actually was really impressed with at Reason Rally that I didn't think I would be impressed with, and I said, well, why is he really speaking? Was John DeLance, the guy that played Q from Star Trek.
Love that character.
I love the guy. I was really blown away. He's an intellectual. He's very thoughtful. You know, he clearly has put as much thought into the research that he's done on his perspectives. But one of the things he said to me, and this is why I love atheists who are not like Stanford graduates, but people who got it, is that he said when he was a child, people were explaining religion to him, and he said, well, in life, I got to go from point A to point B. And religion wants me to deviate and do this to get to point B. And he goes, why? It's a gosh damn straight line. He said, why would I want to I can see B. I'm headed for B. Why do I want to have to genuflect and eat this and not eat that and do this and do that to get where I need to go in life? And I was like, that is a brilliant revelation that, you know, he had as a child. And what I really liked about it is that there was a certain honesty. So John DeLance is somebody that I think I'll be following now on this topic because he gets it from a grassroots, like from a very humanistic standpoint. And if anybody has not checked that out, that's another thing that I would tell you that I think Reason Rally did as having as a guest speaker is having him there was very powerful for me. Yeah. You know,
I could do without, you know, the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard. Yeah. They can go off to Wonderland. But you know, what have they done for us?
Yeah. Well, I think they're a draw for the average person, which I like. We have literally 10 seconds to go. I would like to tell anyone, if you haven't visited the Reason Rally website or haven't supported them, please do.
.org.
And I think we'll be seeing you next week here again.
Reason Rally.
Reason Rally.
Or no, Road to Reason.
Road to Reason. Yay. Check us out on Facebook. Woohoo.